To explain to you how the LOX works. The LOX is a machine. Start on the earth, okay? We're going to start on the earth. We're going to start um, on some railroad tracks. And what we have is a railroad carriage. Just a carriage. We're going to start on railroad tracks. And we have a merry-go-round. A merry-go-round that's mounted on a carriage, a railroad carriage. The railroad itself is flat. It's not on a hill or anything like that. It's just flat, level hill, and it's straight. And you can be my friend, and you're at one end of the railroad tracks. I don't know, 100 yards away, we'll say. And we're going to use this machine, the LOX, to push the railroad carriage in your direction. Okay, so mounted on the railroad carriage is a merry-go-round, and I'm sitting at the center of the merry-go-round. Okay, and we have 4 lead-filled bowling balls. One of them is right straight in front of me. The other one is right to my right. The other one is right to my left. And the other one is right behind me. And they're all kind of situated. They're on the periphery of the merry-go-round. And they're situated in kind of a groove, so that they can only slide straight toward me or straight away from me, okay, in each direction. And you're gonna have to use your imagination a little bit for some of the things that I described, because I can't describe everything. I mean, I could, but the time is limited. I have some other friends, I think. Well, in this thought experiment, I've got other friends, and they're gonna give this merry-go-round a really good spin. So I'm gonna be spinning like this, yeah, spinning, and so right now the railroad carriage is stationary, except I am on the merry-go-round spinning on it, okay? And when as the bowling ball gets about 20 degrees ahead of dead center, straight in line with the tracks, there's a rope attached to each bowling ball. I'm going to start pulling on the rope on the bowling ball, pulling on it towards myself. So pulling on it through, and that's going to accelerate me in your direction. It's going to accelerate the whole carriage and everything, because I've got a seat belt and everything, and I'm fastened securely to the center of the merry-go-round. And and each bowling ball has got, when it gets to like within a foot of me, has got like a catch where it's going to stop. Okay, it can't fly back out, and it'll just stay where it is until I pull on this release, and then that'll release it, and then they can go back to their original positions. But so for each one of these bowling balls, as it gets to about 20, you're straight ahead of me on the railroad tracks. As I get to about 20 degrees, you know, off dead center, I'm going to start pulling, pull. And that's going to accelerate me towards you. And the faster I spin, the harder I'm going to have to pull or and that'll give me a greater acceleration towards you. And then the bowling ball is going to come to a stop and stay right there. And then the next bowling ball is going to come along, and I'm going to pull, 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 pull. And I'm going to do that with all 4 bowling balls. And then all 4 bowling balls are going to be sitting right next to me. Then I'm going to release this catch, okay? And all 4 bowling balls are going to go flying back out. Centripetal force is going to let them go back to their original place in the periphery of the merry-go-round. Okay? This is what is providing the motive force for the carriage to accelerate towards you, my friend. Towards you. Now we're going to try a variation on the machine. Okay. There are a lot of different ways to build the LOX. And so I'm here, Mr. Kite, trying to explain to you how the LOX works. This time, instead of having ropes to pull the bowling balls towards me, I'm going to have a cage that can go up and down. It's mounted on the railroad carriage. It goes around the merry-go-round. It doesn't touch the merry-go-round anywhere. The merry-go-round still spins all by itself, okay? Or it's free to spin by itself. And what I can do is I can lift up or pull down on this cage-like thing that has got right in front of me. It has kind of a ramp, or what I call a cam. Here is, can't see. The cage that I pull down, the cage that I can lift it up, and I can pull it down, and it's got bearings and stuff. So you have to imagine some of this stuff that I'm not going to go into. But so anybody with half of a mechanical sensibility can imagine that like it's got a handle that I can push up and pull down as I spin, because the cage and the carriage does not spin. They're fixed, or they roll on the tracks. They roll on the railroad tracks. So with the bowling balls, the lead-filled bowling balls on the periphery of the merry-go-round, I pull down on this cage. Well, part of what the cage consists of is like a ramp that guides the bowling ball in towards me and puts it on its catch. And here's kind of, I lost my pointer. I don't know what I did. Oh, there it is. I also have the picture backwards, so I can't tell what I'm doing. These are the bowling balls on the periphery of the merry-go-round, and I pull down on this cage that has this like ramp-like thing that accelerates the bowling ball towards me. And here are 4 examples of the bowling balls when they're on their inside position and they're in their catches. Okay, but anyway, so when I pull down on this cage, the ramp, which I call a cam, is gonna use the momentum of the bowling balls spinning is gonna pull the bowling balls in towards me, conservation of momentum, okay? And I'm going to talk about conservation of momentum, but by the time we're done with this whole thing, we're going to have some questions about conservation of momentum. So what this, I pulled out on the cage. It accelerates the bowling balls in. They get stopped in their catches, and then they're all sitting next to me as I spin, and then I'll lift up on the cage, and a couple of things have happened now. I've been accelerated towards you at the end of the railroad tracks, and the merry-go-round has sped up like an ice skater who's spinning, you know, an ice skater who spins and pulls himself in tight like this. Will spin faster and faster because of conservation of momentum. You know, that energy of momentum has to go someplace, and so what it does is it converts into higher RPM, higher speed, angular velocity. Well, the merry-go-round is doing the same thing. Anyway, so then I pull on this catch release, and the bowling balls go flying back out to the periphery of the merry-go-round, just like before. Okay, and the whole merry-go-round slows down some. That is essentially how the machine works. That's essentially how the machine works. And you can picture this in your brain. Okay? There's just no way that it does all day until I finally make it to my friend, you, my friend, at the end of the railroad tracks. I can just keep pulling down on this cage, accelerating forward, lifting up on it, releasing the catch, letting the bowling balls fly back out, and then pull down back on the cage again, go forward again, and until I'm finally automatically functional version of the same thing. And this is the kind of thing that to scientists out there, the bowling balls are changing their moment of inertia by changing their position on the merry-go-round. They're changing their moment of inertia, and that's what causes the acceleration in one direction on the railroad tracks, and that is what causes the merry-go-round to speed up as the bowling balls get pulled in. What we're going to do now is we're going to get rid of me. We're going to get rid of the merry-go-round. We're going to get rid of the tracks and all that, and we're just going to build a model. We're just going to build a model of something that does the exact same thing. This isn't. I call this an armature. It spins, and instead of having bowling balls, we have these whoops, darn, these things that slide in and out. Okay, so instead of having bowling balls, we have these. I call them orbitals because they're like the bowling balls were like in orbit. You know, they were in orbit around me. Well, these are also orbitals, and they can slide in and out. You know, so instead of having like someone in the center of this pulling on a rope that pulls on this, the whole thing fits inside of a cam. Imagine this plate. I don't want the thing to fall out. Probably already scratched the table. Imagine that this plate is actually deformed. in that it's got a big diameter side, and it has a smaller diameter side, and then it has got like a cam side here. That's where this picture comes in. What do I do with the picture? Here's the big side. Here is the armature that spins. Spins in this direction. Okay. Am I looking at it from? Yeah. Spins in this direction. Here is the big portion. The big portion, the big diameter portion. Here is the smaller diameter portion. Right through here. Here is the cam portion, where it goes from being a small diameter. It opens up to being a larger diameter, and where it goes from being the larger diameter to the smaller diameter, that's where it's going to get this push. These orbitals are going to push it in this direction. And the balls can only go back and forth just like that. The orbitals only go back and forth just like that, or up and down like that. But so this orbital here is going to be going in this direction, and it's pushed in. It's pushed in just like in this example where we had that cage unit. See, everything's all backwards. We had that cage unit that pushed the orbitals in. Well, this does the same thing, except for it does it 100% duty cycle. This thing can just spin and spin and spin and spin and spin. And because I seem awfully busy, don't I? Well, it's because I'm trying to go too fast. I don't want this over 50 minutes. It's only 25 minutes so far. But I also want you to understand how it works. When this side is pushed in, this orbital here, this orbital here is pushed in to this smaller diameter circle. This orbital here is being let out to the larger diameter. So one of them wants to speed, this one wants to speed the whole system up, and this one as it moves along wants to slow the whole system down. So you might say that this orbital absorbs the angular energy, the angular momentum of this guy. This guy wants to speed everything up, and over here he wants to slow everything down. So the thing will spin like a flywheel. That's where you come in, because you're going to build this thing. You guys are going to build this thing. I'm showing you how to do it. So the whole thing will spin like a flywheel. All the energy in it is balanced. The only difference is that it will provide a push. Where this side is pushed into a smaller diameter, it's actually going to, essentially it's going to be pulled in this direction. And as long as the unit moves at a constant speed, if it doesn't accelerate, if it moves at a say you put this on a ship at sea or a boat, and you accelerate the armature up to like say 5,000 RPM, and you're going like 12 knots, 12 even knots. This thing will continue to spin just like a flywheel, and it'll continue to exert this force in this direction. If it accelerates, you have to add energy to it. You have to spin it faster and faster to make it accelerate, and other things happen too. It actually gets very, very complex. The dynamics of what happens get very complex, but I'm not going to go into that right now. Mr. Kite, without adding energy to it, it will create acceleration. And as far as thought experiments go, this would make a great spaceship engine. The only thing is, you have to remember, this whole system is only half of the system. You need, if you're out floating in space, you need two of them counter-rotating. Because before we had railroad tracks to keep everything in line, because otherwise the whole thing wants to twist. It's just going to want to twist and turn. But if you're just floating in space, you need two of them counter-rotating. You know, the armatures counter-rotate, and that'll provide a thrust in one direction. And so that would be your spaceship engine. You know, I mean, it'll accelerate really slowly at first, but it'll continue to accelerate at 30 meters per second. And over time, that'll get you moving pretty fast. And you say, okay, Mr. Kite, speaking of the P word, we all know that that's impossible. And, first of all, the machine works. So we want to say, how does the machine work? Dr. Einstein and a couple of guys named Michelson and Morley erroneously determined that there wasn't such a thing as the ether. And I have to mention, if I'm going to talk about the machine, I have to talk about the ether. Because the ether exists. There is such a thing as the ether. If you're a fish and you live in a fishbowl, you don't have a clue about water. You got to do all kinds of experiments, and you have to use your brain, and you have to. Well, we live in a fishbowl, and we live in an environment. The universe is filled with this highly energetic, highly dense sea of almost infinitesimal particles, but they're highly energetic. They're buzzing around like crazy. And what the LOX does is it actually creates a vacuum in the ether on one side, kind of like the top of an airplane wing. You know, it's not the top of the wing that sucks an airplane into the air. It's the force on the bottom of the wing that lifts an airplane into the air. And it's the same thing with the LOX drive. What the LOX does is it creates a slight vacuum in the ether on one side of its rotation, and the ether pushes uses the energy of the universe to push the lock drive through the ether. And that's how it works. The can that I mentioned here, this can is actually very complex. See, in principle the machine is simple, but technically it's very complex. It must be, the can is not symmetrical. It doesn't look symmetrical like that. It's inertially symmetrical. Otherwise, another video fly apart. I'll probably make another video just like this one that's better than this one. That is a little bit more comprehensible. But I'll do another one with regard to the ether. I'll be back. Okay. End this now while we can.